Afternoon, folks, to our recent national COVID-19 update. Shortly, I'll be handing over to Steve Grace, talking about South Australia and Northern Territory. But I guess David Batty, looking after the New South Wales, ACT, Victoria and Tassie, is probably more relevant at the moment. We have apologies from David Lewis from Western Australia and also Anthony Miles from up in Queensland. Before I do pass over to David and Steve, I'd just like to advise members from Victoria and New South Wales that Fitness Australia is extending your personal trainer membership for 3 months at no cost. And in Victoria, there'll be an additional month's extension to the already month's extension we had earlier on this year. And this is our small way of being able to support you during this ongoing COVID lockdowns. If you can put any questions you have in the chat box or the Q&A box more particularly, and we'll get to those eventually. Steve, over to you first with South Australia and Northern Territory.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. I might start with WA and SA. Not a lot going on in those two states. Things are pretty cruisy. I have had some feedback from the South Australian government with regard to the current restrictions for gyms. So masks are still required unless you're performing physical activities. So for staff members, that is going to be hanging around for the foreseeable future, just at this point. The rationale for that is obviously what's happening in other states and the potential risk for something to enter South Australia. So until things are cleared up nationwide, I think that one will be staying around, as will most likely the 4 square metres, as opposed to coming back to the 2 or less. So keep that in mind for anyone in South Australia. WA moving along nicely, apart from some obvious border restrictions that have been implemented. Things are as normal in WA. The big one obviously being Northern Territory going into lockdown. Good news out of Northern Territory is that there's only been the 1 case so far, no cases yesterday or today, which is a fantastic result. So the Darwin and Katherine regions, which are locked down at the moment, are due to come out of lockdown at midday tomorrow, and it's looking like that will happen unless something in the next 24 hours goes pear-shaped. So touch wood, fingers crossed, all the rest of it, that doesn't happen, and we can reopen in the Northern Territory. We've also reached out to our contacts at the NT government, so with the Chief Minister's office and also the Chief Health Officer himself. We've reached out to those key stakeholders to put forward our proposal for an easing of restrictions for fitness facilities, which we've done in all other states very, very successfully. So hopefully we can hear back from them. I'll be pushing very, very hard to get a call back today and tomorrow, because we want to see gyms open ASAP when restrictions are eased. We don't want to be left last in the line. We don't deserve to have that, as we all know. So that is our project at the moment. But apart from that, that is all from this side of the country.
Thanks, Steve. Dave Batty, unfortunately, the numbers, New South Wales still heading in the wrong direction today. Perhaps you can give us an update on anything that may be in your area.
Yeah, look, New South Wales numbers are definitely not looking great. We are having conversations with New South Wales Health around the restrictions around regional Victoria, still talking to them around masks and things like that for classes. This seems to be something that will be held on to until they really get a handle on any of this. Now that the restrictions are across all of regional New South Wales, we also have the ability to only do personal training outdoors. Now, when it comes to New South Wales and outdoors, you can't really be training clients in their backyard, because that'd be classified as a visitor. So they're asking you to be out in public spaces, parks, areas like that. The reason being that they don't want people visiting people's homes. In simple context, they really want people to be in those open spaces where there's a lot of fresh air, and it minimises any other additional exposure sites that could pop up from that.
And I'm assuming, Dave, that the outdoor training is still one-on-one regional New South Wales, as it is for Sydney?
It is the exact same as Sydney. So it's at outdoor one-on-one. We recommend that the personal trainer be wearing a mask wherever possible, due to the fact that they're more likely to pass on anything than the actual person they're training, and it also protects the trainer a small amount. So we're trying to make sure that everybody understands that this is something that we need people to really push to their members and themselves to really protect the community.
Okay, so Beck from the ACT has asked if those comments also apply in the ACT.
Yeah, the ACT has gone to, I'll actually don't believe that you can actually personal train the ACT. I'll actually have to come back to you on that. They were getting to me today with the final ruling on that. You're allowed outdoors to do one-on-one training, but I believe, yeah, there you go. One-on-one training seems to be the way to go for the ACT, and it's outdoors and it can't be done, once again, in any residence. So anytime when it comes to a residence, they really want to reduce that.
And boxing?
Boxing is definitely something we're dissuading, especially in those areas that are at high risk. Anything that has you face-to-face with somebody in close proximity that's within that 1.5 metre distance is really heightening your risk on yourself as well as your clients.
Okay, just before we go on a few of these other questions, is there any update on Victoria at all?
Victoria, I've had some good conversations with health. They're pushing along. There's only one area of concern for them, and that's around that St Kilda area at the moment. The rest of it, they seem to have got a fairly good handle on. They're looking to keep regional Victoria open, as well as trying to progress us at the same level once we come out of lockdown here in Melbourne itself, so the metro area. So the conversations at the moment are very positive for how we will open. It's now we've just got to get to that opening phase.
David, one in the chat room here, if local police are happy that you are conducting one-on-one PT outdoor at your own home, is this enough? Asking if one of my regional trainers, New South Wales.
It'll be enough not to get a fine from that police officer, but the next one may not be so happy, or you may have a health person come through. I'd say it's just out of an abundance of caution that you really want to take it out to those parks, and we just don't want to have loopholes or mixed messaging wherever possible. We want to try to keep it quite direct and straight down the line, that we want people to not be going into people's homes. It's a part of that restriction.
Yep. Similarly, in New South Wales, can outdoor personal training with one client be carried out further than 5 k's from the personal trainer's home, but within 5 k's of the client's home?
You're not allowed to travel for this, so you must stay within your area still. So for all recreation at the moment, you must stay within your 5 kilometre area.
Okay, just moving down here. I have a personal studio in my backyard. I'm confirming I cannot use that facility either.
That is accurate. Any gym facility, whether it's in your yard or at the shops or anywhere else, is all out of bounds at the moment.
Okay, one from Anne in Queensland. I lead older adults in group exercise in Queensland, which includes many high-risk participants, including some who cannot, I'm assuming this is for a medical reason, have a vaccine. So want to mandate at least one shot for all other participants. What do we think on that?
That's going to be a tough one. Mandating is a strong word to use when it comes to that. So that's something that we're going to have to look at going forward, where there is possibility that different states will go forward with things like passports, immunisation passports and things like that. To mandate it as an individual, you're putting yourself out there at a bit of a risk. I would strongly suggest that everybody has it and to protect their own health, but I don't think you'll have the ability or the control to be able to mandate it from where you're sitting, because that is a personal health decision.
Yeah, it's always difficult mandating anything if you don't have the law behind you. You're leaving yourselves open to all kinds of potential claims, unfortunately. Regional New South Wales, are gym owners and staff allowed on site to record workout videos, run Zoom classes, etc.?
In New South Wales, that was okayed. You're allowed to leave your home for the purposes of work, to go to the gym and record, if you cannot do that at home. So if you're able to do it at home and feel safe doing that at home, it is still suggested that you do it at home. If this is not possible, the minimum number of staff required to do that would be one person plus the person holding the camera. You cannot have a cast of thousands there. And I would also put up signage that you are doing it for the purposes of recording on the door to allow everybody to understand what you're doing, so you don't end up with a couple of knocks on the door.
Yep. In New South Wales, can a personal trainer train 2 clients from one household outdoors, mother and daughter at the same time?
The answer to that is no. So the only gatherings that you can have are up to 2 people, or a group from the same home. You cannot have a group from two different households coming together. So no, the answer to that would be one-on-one is the only training that you're allowed to do.
One-on-one in the car park of your studio, is that okay?
It can be okay if it's outdoors and it's depending. The technical ruling would be relating to if that the car park is part of your premises and is for your sole use, but they really would like you away from the gyms and away from areas that you're going to interact with other people if possible. So making sure that it's a low traffic area and making sure that it's a space that's going to be only used for you and that you're not going to have people walking through the middle of it. That would be what some of the things that I'd be considering. But yeah, the basic answer to it is, yes, you can do it, but I wouldn't be doing every second car space being another personal training session, because that will definitely call attention to you.
That's right. And we have to always be conscious of members of the public that like to dob in what they perceive as being contraventions to the health regulations. We've had a lot of stories about that happening. Heidi, just confirming, I can't travel more than 5Ks to train clients in New South Wales.
If you're under the 5K limits, that is correct. So if you are not allowed to leave more than 5 kilometres from your home, you are not allowed to travel more than 5 kilometres to train somebody at this stage.
Yep. Do we have any word yet on the extension of current regional New South Wales lockdown?
There hasn't been anything said to me. They're looking to, a couple of the regions are looking to come out. There's been 2 or 3 of the regions that haven't had any cases in 2 or 3 days. So they're looking good, but there's definitely some regions that won't be coming out for a little while.
Yeah, from Sally, permits required in parks, or does that depend on the state? It probably depends more on the local government that applies where you're operating from. Some do require permits, some don't.
Yes, definitely. It's down to the local council. Some councils are actually not allowing personal trainers to use those areas to reduce the movement in the area as well.
Yep. In Sydney, can you conduct a personal training session with a mum? And is she able to bring her dependents aged 5 and 8 if she can't leave them at home?
Every child in a group is classified as somebody over the age of 12 months. So those people could not be part of the group. If they were able to be set aside or with someone else or moved to away from you, but you cannot have them as a part of a group, because that would be forming 2 groups larger than larger than 2 people from 2 households.
Okay, from Kirsty in Victoria, can Victorian PTs train one-on-one and can they live stream from the studio?
So the one-on-one, the answer is no. You can't personal train one-on-one at the moment. It's not under the permitted workers, so you can't leave your home for that purpose. You're allowed to do recreation for that short period of time that we're allowed out, but no. The live streaming, in the past, I have definitely been told yes, and I have put this forward again, and they haven't come back to me with a definitive response. But at this stage, I would say you are allowed to do that for the purposes of just streaming and make sure that there's only 1 or 2 people there.
Yeah, so Brett's just put a comment here. Can we ask trainers to stop looking for loopholes, etc.? And totally agree, Brett. The more that loopholes take place and the more they're exposed in the media, the harder it's going to be for David, Steve, and Anthony and the other David to negotiate with various health departments to be able to get open again. The health departments want to have confidence that our sector is doing the right thing, and we need to be able to give them confidence that we can guarantee they are. So please don't try and find those loopholes. It's a very short-term gain for longer-term pain. Can you train anywhere in your LGA in a regional New South Wales, or is it 5K radius regardless?
If you're under a 5K radius, it's a 5K radius regardless. They're looking to try to minimise movement and interactions. So any further that you go from that home base will increase the amount of people that you'd be in contact with. So the answer is no.
Okay, in Melbourne, can gym managers go to their clubs even if they're further than 5K? If so, for what reasons?
You're allowed to attend your facility for the purposes of maintenance, and it can't be just basic maintenance. It has to be some form of emergency maintenance. That's the only purpose that you can go there. The other one would be for the recording, if it's necessary, and the only safe place that you can do it would be from the facility, then you're able to turn up there. But once again, it would be for the minimum number of people required to do that activity.
Okay, that's the end of all the questions on the chat and the Q&A. So for the benefit of those viewers who joined us after we started, can I just also reiterate that for our New South Wales Fitness Australia members, we'll be extending your membership for 3 months at no cost. In the ACT, we'll look at doing something for you guys as well, depending on how long you are shut down for. We'll wait and then we'll put a extension there as well. In Victoria, we are extending another month already on top of the month we've given already in Victoria. And as I said at the start, this is just our small way of trying to support you in these really shithouse times, let's be honest. And hopefully we can get through this sooner rather than later. Yeah, look, thank you for your interest today. Thank you for your questions. We will keep doing these sessions as long as we think necessary. The extension will be put in writing, Pamela. You might get, before we get a chance to adjust our IT systems, you might actually get an automated renewal. You can ignore that until, but you will have a 3-month extension. You have my word on that. If you want it in writing, send me your email and I will email it back to you. But this is not about any smoke and mirrors. This is a genuine support for you guys.
I've also just had one question come through around CPR, Barry. And while New South Wales is in lockdown, we will be able to, where you can't do your CPR, of course, we're going to allow you to continue as you are until you're able to do that CPR and it opens back up. So once it opens back up, there'll be a small grace period given to you to regain your CPR refresher. But as it stands, we would not see that as a problem. We've had a chat to Guild in the past and they said that they will also cover all of their insurance policies based on that.
And we had a similar conversation this morning with Guild, David, to get that confirmed by them, that those, if they run out, there'll be an extension because not being able to get those obviously renewed. There's a few more questions come in here. Let's just have a look. The ACT, yes, Beck will be doing some concessions in the ACT as well. We're just waiting to see how long that, hopefully not too long that you're shut down there. Michael did his CPR in Melbourne last week. You can do it online, I believe. I don't know how expensive it is, but you'll be given an extension in any case. Okay. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, David. Thank you to all those who've tuned in. As I said, we'll be doing this as long as we have to do it to keep you up to date with all the latest information. Thanks for your interest and your participation. Thanks, guys.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.